Alright guys, Maximum RC coming at you. So I've been having a little bit of technical difficulties, but I think I resolved them, I think. So we're gonna go see, and we're just gonna, okay, so basically everything's been put together. We have the transmission that's back on the rear end of the car. The front end of the car, I went ahead and I upgraded the hardware that was holding the body clips under. We're still gonna use the ProLine body clips. I decided we're gonna keep those. I've upgraded the hardware holding the shocks and the body mount. So it should be fine. All we have left to do at this point will be to put the whole car together. The chassis is nice and clean. We're all good to go here. Now we can go ahead and we can actually finish the project itself and be done with it. So basically what we're going to do now is, like I mentioned, we're just going to put everything together. So enough is enough. Let's get to it. And that's basically all there is to it now. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go on ahead and we're gonna work on this servo so that we can align it and make so that the car will go straight, obviously. So I have the radio on, the battery is plugged in, the motor is not plugged in because I don't feel like having this car take off on me. So the motor, we're leaving it unplugged for the time being. Now what we're gonna do, we're gonna power it up. And we should have, yep, our servo is working. So now what we're gonna do, we're gonna flip this guy upside down. We also replaced, let me bring you guys over here. We also went ahead and replaced the servo hardware because the original one was a little too rusted. And what we're gonna do now is we're gonna put the horn back in place here. Gonna make sure that everything, all the trims are set at 0, like that. Hey guys, Maxman RC coming at ya, and the slash is done. Took a little bit longer than I wanted to, but life happens, and we just gotta deal with what life throws at us. So with that being said, let me show you the slash. And here it is. Now I know you guys are probably thinking, wait, Maxman, that's the same body. Yes, it is. The thing is, I went through the body and there was really no cracks, nothing on this body really. The worst part of it is that it's missing, here we go, it's missing a little bit of the body right here, this little chunk. But truth be told, this is a basher body, this is gonna be a basher car, so I figured no point in really replacing the body when it's gonna get destroyed again. So again, this body doesn't really have any cracks on it, so I figured we're gonna leave the body and we're just gonna focus mainly on the internals, and that's exactly what we did. Let me show you the inside. All right, so on the inside, when it comes to the electronics, if you guys remember, we were looking into the Traxxas servo, and it does work. It did not need to be replaced. It works as it should, so we left the Traxxas servo alone. We did replace the hardware that holds it down. If you guys remember, this hardware was extremely rusty, so we replaced it with some nice stainless steel hardware instead. Same thing with the bolt that holds the steering linkage to the actual servo saver horn. We replaced this guy with stainless steel as well. When it comes to the powerhouse, we've used a Kyosho speed house. This guy can hold up to a 3S LiPo. It is a 60 amp ESC, and we paired that with a Kyosho 14 turn motor as well. So for a brushed RC, for a brushed slash, this thing will definitely be fun. It'll definitely have some power behind it. Going over to this side, if you guys remember, we were missing the battery strap. We replaced the whole battery strap with the Traxxas larger version of this guy with the extended strap. Basically, this guy will allow you to fit a taller battery on here for more playtime. I figured it wasn't really that big of an issue when it comes to price, so we replaced it with that instead. Coming to the front right here, the two front shocks, the two ProLine front shocks, they were fine, didn't need to be replaced or looked into. I did replace the hardware though. It had a total of 4 bolts, 1, 2, 3, and 4. I replaced those with just 2 bolts. The 2 bolts that were holding the body mount to the car, they weren't doing justice, and the body mount was extremely loose. So we replaced those with just 2 bolts going straight through the shock, straight through the shock tower, and holding on to the actual body mount. Again, this is stainless steel hardware. Going to the back of the vehicle, these two are original Traxxas shocks. They were not in bad shape. They were just very dirty and they just needed to be looked at real quick. So we took them apart, we cleaned them up. The shafts on the inside, they were not bent, they were in good shape as well. There was nothing missing on these guys. The springs aren't deformed in any way, shape, or form. So we just threw on some fresh 50 weight oil and called it a day, and now we have working rear shocks as well. Going over here underneath the car real quickly, we replaced the Nerf Bars with some original Traxxas Nerf Bars. And going to the front once more, we replaced the 4 bolts that hold the bumper onto the car with stainless steel. Those 4 bolts, the original ones, they were too far gone. They were stripped and they were extremely rusty. And while we were there, we replaced these 2 as well, because why not, right? Now, when it comes to the receiver, let me show you. First things first, we replaced all the hardware that holds the receiver covers on here with stainless steel hardware as well, because if you guys remember, these guys were also extremely rusty, and I figured let's just go on ahead and replace them with some better hardware. Let me show you what receiver we went with. Alright, so for the receiver, we went with the FlySky GR3E. It's a 3-channel receiver. I've used this company before. I've used FlySky in some of my other builds. I've never really had an issue with it, so I figured we'll go ahead and use FlySky, and I paired it to the FlySky GT3B digital remote. This remote can hold up to 10 different models, 10 different cars. If we click the button here, click it once more, you'll see number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. This one's car number 1, so we'll leave it at that. We can rename this if we really want to. All we gotta do is just click it, and just whatever we want to put on here, we can just go on ahead. Of course, unfortunately, we are just stuck with just 3 different digits. It could be letters, it could be numbers, it could be symbols, it could be basically whatever we want to put on here. Let me show you real quickly here. We have all the numbers going through here, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and the actual alphabet as well. So all in all, it's really, you know, it's a respectable radio. I've used it before and I've never really had an issue with it. So again, I decided we can go ahead and use it again. It has servo reverse, endpoint adjusters. I adjusted the endpoints of the servos to 80%, ABS braking, the exponentials, the dual rates, and the trims. And of course the trims, you can also trim the car just with the buttons in the front of the remote. So overall, it's a pretty respectable radio system and I really liked it. I've used it before, like I mentioned, so I have never had any issues. And finally, when it comes to the tires, I went ahead and I replaced the rear tires with some original Traxxas tires. The tires that were on here, they were becoming unglued, and I decided we're just gonna cut our losses and we put in some fresh Traxxas tires instead. The front tires, yeah, they could be replaced, but they're still pretty decent for what they're, you know, for a couple more bashing sessions. So that's that, guys. The Slash is finished. It did need a little help, but it didn't need as much help as I thought it would. Thankfully, I was able to reuse a couple things. We were able to salvage some things, for example, the servo and the body. From there on out, this was a fun little project. I shouldn't have taken me this long, but again, life happens. So between having to find the parts, getting the parts, and then life happening, it takes a little bit longer than it should have had. But overall, it was a fun little rebuild. I haven't really rebuilt a car in about a year at this point. So this was a fun little project to take on. Next on the bench will be this guy. I'm just waiting for some parts to come in, and once those parts come in, that guy's gonna be worked on. This was Maxman RC, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a good night.